Well, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. I am Tanya E. Hood, a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, it simply means that I've worn a lot of different hats in my life that have helped me develop a full range of strategies and actionable steps that I've used to help my clients make a strategic impact, both personally and professionally, to have better than what life has been giving them. Red Alert Diaries is based on the life lessons from my premier book, Red Alert. Is He the One? The pocket guide to finding the love of your life. And if you read my book, you already know that I got married at 21. And after 11 years of marriage, I found myself going through a divorce, having to raise my two sons alone. To reset my life and survive my divorce, I took the time I needed to get to know me better. And so now I am in a new marriage with the love of my life and my best friend, which proves there is life after divorce. On this podcast, we have some deep discussions about life lessons. So I invite you to join me on the journey. Call 240-532-2227. That's 240-532-2227. Leave your comments, thoughts, and insights along the way so together we can grow. And today we have a special guest joining us, Miss Tara Hall. She is also a co-author in our best-selling #1 Amazon book in 8 categories and internationally. It's titled Your Voice Matters. This book was a collaboration of love, of healing, and an expression to share the voices of those that have been marginalized in this country. In the United States, the death of George Floyd exposed the trauma that Black people have been experiencing for years. And so I'm so grateful that there are people like her that wanted to share their story so that it will be known that this was not just an isolated incident. And so welcome, Miss Tara Hall. Hi, Tara. How are you?
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I'm so glad that you are here now. Before we begin, I have to share more information about her with all of you. Tara is the CEO of Tara Hall Inspired Solutions, a training and development company where she offers services in leadership development, life coaching, professional development training, and workshop facilitation. She also holds degrees in communication and organizational management and has for over 25 years been in the social services in the state of Connecticut. On top of all of that, she is a 5-time published author, 3-time best-selling author, and she has been featured locally and globally in women's digital magazines. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more with her about being a wife and a mother of teen sons, because Black people still have a target on their back in this country. And as mothers of sons, I know what it is like to have to prepare them to be citizens in this country. So Tara, knowing your heart to serve, I understand why you felt inclined to share your experience. Do you want to give us a snippet of what you shared so that people that get the book can get a perspective of why you felt the importance of sharing this with the world?
Yeah, thank you so much. My chapter is about opportunities. And, in life, just as you were sharing, there are a lot of things that, especially for people of color, that, we may not necessarily look at as opportunities because we have to put ourselves out there, right? And that might mean we have to take a risk. And we're really just taking a risk on ourselves. But I don't necessarily believe in the luck. I believe in just believing that there are things out there in the world for all of us, and it's our decision to step up and step into it and say, this is for me. So I just a little, like you said, a little snippet of what I talk about, what I share in the book, but really about opportunities in life and how can we seize those when they're there.
Well, awesome. Thank you for that. And now I want to ask this question. As a mother of Black sons, raising teens in this environment, when we went through that experience, because we came together as a collective for Your Voice Matters, because this conversation was not being had. And now I'm glad it's opened up more discussions. What have you and your sons talked about with regards to this traumatic experience?
It's It's been a lot, it was definitely a trying time, and it still remains a trying time around, just people of color in the world and how we move about in the world. But, we would look at what was happening in the news, and we would have conversations about what they saw and how did it resonate and how did it feel for them. And it was heavy, it was heavy in our household because when you have children, and this, when you have children and you're holding them in your arms as little babies, you can't think of anything more than what they will aspire to be and all the dreams that you have for them, but also the dreams that they have for themselves as they grow. And you don't want to see anything get in the way of that growth. And seeing what we were seeing on the news as a parent, to me, I just felt really frustrated that someone could interrupt that potential dream that I have for them, or that potential dream that they have for themselves. And so I said we would just have conversations about, what did it feel like, honoring our feelings in that space, um, sharing our fears, sharing our frustrations, and sharing what do we still have control over, though. Because if we don't look at our life in a if we don't look at our life in a way that someone else is invading our space, we have to remember that we actually have control over our life, in spite of sometimes what's going on around us. And maybe I'll share later, but it'll come up in one of the success equations that I train and teach in. But there's an equation, there's a success equation that I often comment on. And I'll just share it now, but it's E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. And that formula is really important to remember because it's in the R of that equation that we have control. And I always teach that, and I always embed that and talk to my kids about it, because we can get so frustrated, as I was sharing before, about what's going on around us, that we can sometimes forget we still have control.
That's the thing that I'm so glad that you shared, because my children are no longer teens and having this conversation. But the thing that I had to let them know early on, because for some reason in this country, my 8-year-old son is seen as a predator. Why? No other human race individual is seen as a predator at 8. What could he possibly do at 8 years old where he would be deemed a predator? So I had to get them to get some understanding early on that people will say and do what they think they want to, but your response will show who you are. Your response gives insight into your core strengths and your character and your being. So I'm thankful for that formula. I didn't have it, but as Black women, we know we have to help our children get some insight about their response to what's happening in the world. So with you still having teens, because that dynamic with them trying to find themselves, trying to operate in some independence, what did they have to say would be their response in this situation?
Well, my younger son, who is almost 15, his response was, you know, why is the world like this? Why do people act this way? That's not that's not who we are as people, and that's not who I am. So just your example of what you said about at 8 years old, that our brown boys can be considered as predators, that does a lot to who they are subconsciously, because they start getting messages. And my son would say, he just didn't understand it. It frustrated him. It made him feel angry at times. And in spite of that, in those situations, that's where we would always have the conversation around, but how can you still control how you feel about you in spite of what's happening around you? How do you carry yourself in a way that honors you as a young man, that honors you as a young brown boy, that honors just who you are as a person? You have absolute control over all those things around you. How you have friendships with people, how you develop friendships with people. And he's who I call my old soul. He's my old soul son, and I swear he's been here before, because he just thinks very deeply about things. And I love that, because it allows us to have the space to have the conversations that you and I are having here as adults. Like, he's there and he wants to know and he wants to question and he's always curious. And I would say, even with my older son, that's the same feeling is, you know, that's not who I am. So sometimes he may operate in a space where he doesn't worry about it. He's like, I'm just going to live my life and do the things that I want to do. So they're in different spaces, but we always leave space for the conversation. And my husband, having conversations with just the boys about life as a young man is important too, separate from conversations with mom.
And that's important because here's the thing that often happens, and it's unfortunate, but there aren't that many young Black men that have their fathers in their lives. I know for me, when I got divorced, my children were 4 and 10, rounding the numbers up. They were in a half space, but that left me having to deal with a lot of what they were experiencing with just myself. Now, as a mother, I can pour in certain things, but I let them know that it takes two to give a foundation. So we have to have a community that comes around and supports. And being in the professional experience that you have for over 25 years, I know there has been some things that you have experienced that have been birthed out of trauma that individuals don't have a full scope. I commend you and your husband for being present for your kids, but can you share a little bit about what you have been doing in the social services arena regarding this?
Yeah, I worked in child welfare and social services for over 20 years, and just as we're having this conversation, these are just like sort of the what I call like the tip of the iceberg of some of the experiences that I've had over the years in working, and excuse me, in working with people who have had, um, you know, s- trauma, right? Because a lot of what we experience overall in this country as people of color is that trauma, and what we experience around microaggressions and all those other areas. And I would say in working in social services, whether have worked with our younger children, adults, and young adults, it's always hard to sometimes help them see the light, because of a lot of the experiences and traumas that they've gone through. But I tell you, just having conversations with people about what's on their mind, what's on their heart, that to me is where the connection can be built around even the gloomiest of circumstances that someone may have come from. And I work in a field where a lot of people have had a lot of traumatic life experiences, and to still let them know that there's hope, to still let them know they still have control over parts of their life, that is what can bring about the change that we hope for everyone, and not just people of color, but for everyone to understand that we're human beings first. We all have experiences, but how we help each other through those experiences is what can make us a better human race.
I agree with that. Is that what inspired you to start your training and development company?
Actually, it is. It is because I took in so many narratives over the years of people, like I said, abuse, neglect, domestic violence, substance abuse, mental health issues. And I started thinking, like, wow, I've taken in a lot of my own uh, vicarious trauma through other people's lived experiences. And I said, what can I do to, one, purge all of that out of me, but also validate a lot of these experiences that people have had. And I really started getting very interested in people's stories, because that's what I was living all those years. It was people's real life stories. And when I got into the personal development space, I was around a lot of people who were birthing books and who were sharing stories. And I was thinking, could I do that? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I could do that. And that's what really got me in the space of working either in collaboratives in other people's books, and also birthing my own book and doing one of my own collaboratives. And it was a way for other professionals, leaders, aspiring leaders to share their personal stories. And I found that some of those same traumas and stories that I was hearing on my job were the same traumas and experiences that people who were working professionals had experienced as well. And they were open and willing to share their story actually in the first collaborative published book that I put together called Emerging. And it's 11 women who shared their personal stories as well. So that's exactly what fueled me in getting into that space of starting my own training and development company, because I wanted to take what was sometimes the heaviness and the negative part of some of what I was doing in my career, and saying, what can I do to bring about this in a more healthy way, but also in a way that allows other people to share their stories too.
That is awesome. So this is a passion of yours. Can you give us a little more insight about your passion? Because that is a piece that I think we really need to pay some attention to.
Yeah, it's the stories and listening, but it's not just listening to the stories. It's it's that empathic listening. It's really getting behind the heart of the story. And when I coach people to kind of develop their stories, it's it's making them go to some places where they have to get vulnerable. And we don't always want to do that. We want to talk about the nice things and the fun things, but we sometimes have to purge some of those things in our own backgrounds to get to a place where we can be just truthful and honest about our who we are. And so the book writing and the story part came about as one component, but my other love along with that is training. And I used to be a workforce development trainer several years back in the same company, and I actually made a career switch more recently, and I'm now working in the space as a full-time workforce development trainer for another state agency. And so that's my love. I love being in the classroom. So virtual space is okay, but I'm looking forward to looking forward to getting back in the classroom.
I so
Um,
understand.
yeah, and in the training space with people face to face, because some of the trainings that I do, it really requires people being in the same room.
And it's not that's easy to transition some of those things that you do live into a virtual environment. I know the course that I teach, Navigating Life After Divorce, is a course that was birthed from what I have done in corporate America for years. And there's an element that I had to try to figure out how to get the emotional synergy that you can feel by being in a room and then try to convey that online. So, having spoken about your coaching package that you provide, and I'm so thankful that you do it because people need what you're giving. What is there? Is there a specific outcome that you are really looking to help your clients receive?
Yeah, right now I'm in the space of writing and doing book coaching. So I've had a couple of clients who wanted to do their own books, and so we went from start to finish. I had one individual who had no manuscript, and we went from her ideas to a full blown outcome, and she published her book over this past summer. And I worked with another client who came with journals, so she had pieces of her story, and she had multiple journals. So we had to narrow down where, what her desire was. So my coaching around the book writing is the desired outcome is a finished product of your own book. And they were able to publish both this summer with their ebook versions as well as their hard copies version as well. So that's the desired outcome in the book writing space. In the life coaching space, it's people who were like me, at one time. I'm in my career moving along, and I feel like, okay, this is good, but I feel like there's more, or I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I plateaued. And I like to work with those women as well who want to challenge where they're at in their life and say, you know what? I really have always wanted to do something else, but I'm not sure the steps of how to get there. And I walk with them through that process of what does it take to say, I want this particular outcome from my life, but now I got to put in the muscle and put in the work to make it happen, because I've been in the, like I said, the working on the professional development side for like about the past 5 to 6 years. So I've been doing my crunches and been doing my sit-ups, and I've been putting in my work. So I want to be an example as well to my clients that if it's possible for me, it's possible for you too.
And you are also an example because you have some projects that you are working on that will be launching in the new year. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, I had this past January, I published Emerging, which was the women's edition of leaders sharing their story. And I actually have the men's version, the men's edition of Emerging, which will be releasing in January of 2022. So that's a project that's actually coming to a close right around now, and we'll be ready to publish and share men's journeys in the start of the new year. I also have a project that I was a part of, a collaborative. It's called 50 something. And I am sharing another journey in that book. So that'll be another published work again in January of 2022. So looking forward to both of those releases coming.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that piece. So we are wrapping up this part of our conversation. Is there any last thought that you want to make certain that the audience receives?
Yeah, I want to say, don't hold back. Don't hold back on yourself. Don't underestimate yourself. Know that you have more to give. And when you know you have more to give, find the people, find the network, find the circle of people that can help you get to where you want to go. So often we can see other people doing things and wish that that was me, or I wish I could do that. Don't wish. Actually find the people, the resources, like yourself, Tanya, you provide services to people, right? And I provide services to people. Like, get connected. That's the biggest thing I would want someone to take away. And I have one additional takeaway, because this conversation also started with raising our brown boys and parenting as well. And I wanted to leave this resource, which I think is a great book, for those who are out there who want to be an ally to those in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And it's called Beyond Ally: The Pursuit of Racial Justice. It's by Dr. Mesa Akbar. It's a great book. I recommend it to those who are looking to be allies to those who are in the racial justice space, but also anyone. If you're looking to be educated, enlightened, and understand where we are as a country, I think this is a great resource. And I'm using it for personal, but I'm also using it as part of my workforce development, because I'll also do training specifically in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And it's a great read.
Well, I thank you for that resource. And that is part of why I have these sessions, because I want Red Alert Diaries to be a space where people can get the information that they need. So, Tara, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your heart as a mother, being a phenomenal support system to those around you. So, everyone, I encourage you to go to her website, tarahallinspiredsolutions.com. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else that has been shared, here's the one thing I want you to know. You have in your control the ability to support someone that doesn't look like you, and how you respond to the things that are happening around you. Because we have got to get to a space as a people where we start supporting one another and being a community. We are one race of people. We need to stop segmenting who we are so that we can be more effective in this world that we live in. And if you are on Clubhouse, you can join us every Tuesday in the Winning and Wealth Club. Starting at 6 p.m., we have a discussion in the Life Lessons room on mindset. But at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we can continue this conversation in the Red Alert Diary session, or we can start a new one. This is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.